College football video games returned in 2024 after an 11-year hiatus, and EA this past week announced that the college basketball games are returning as well. So, with CFB 26 on the horizon, I figured we'll take a look into why these games even went away in the first place. These original wave of games were some people's favorites during the 2000s and early 2010s. They made up a lot of people's childhoods, including myself. But all of a sudden, these games kind of just went away, and especially because it was during the time before the internet was as big as it is now. I mean, the college basketball games ended in 2009, with 2K making their last one in 2007, EA in 2009. And then 4 years after, the college football games all of a sudden went away as well. There is a very key difference between the college basketball and the college football games that resulted in the 4 year gap between the games going away. And it was also the difference that made it so these games even went away in the first place, especially college basketball. Again, I don't have a copy of NCAA 10, but I do have NCAA March Madness '08, and the team that specifically caused all of this is in that game as well, which is the 1995 UCLA Bruins. EA loved the concept of historic teams. The PS2 era Maddens all had historic teams a part of it, and the college basketball games did as well. 2K will later follow this up with NBA 2K11 being the first time you can play as historic teams, because it was the first time since he retired that 2K was able to get the license from Michael Jordan. And that's the key thing there. 2K was able to get the license for all those historic players. Meanwhile, EA, because they had to deal with the NCAA, even though these players were already out of college by a long while, their college image and likeness was still safeguarded by the NCAA. So when EA did the historic teams for these games, they still couldn't include the actual players themselves. So when a very key piece of the 95 Bruins saw his image and likeness being used in NCAA '09, needless to say he was not very pleased about the lack of pay that came from that. In comes Ed O'Bannon, and he's the most associated with why these games went away in the first place, but it wasn't entirely on him. He wasn't the only person in these lawsuits, and he had full right to do this as the NCAA was in a very archaic spot at the time, and hell, there still are in many different circumstances. But some people might not realize how good Ed O'Bannon was. He was a McDonald's All American out of high school, and he was initially committed to UNLV, but with complications due to their basketball program, he rescinded his commit and went to UCLA instead. Right before his freshman year was supposed to start, he tore his ACL just 6 days before practice and thus had to miss that season. His first season wouldn't prove to be anything special as he was a primary bench piece, averaging about 4 points per game. But once he got actual minutes in his sophomore season, he would be named a first team All Pac 10 member. And then his junior season, when he saw even more minutes, he was named team MVP and got another first team All Pac 10 selection. His senior season was incredible as a player. He averaged 20.4 points per game on 53% shooting from the field and 43% shooting from three as a power forward, and he even averaged 8.3 rebounds a game. His tournament run was also fantastic, with the key piece being his national championship performance. He put up 30 points and 17 rebounds in the national championship game. This led to him being named most outstanding player for the tournament, on top of winning the John Wooden Award, the Oscar Robertson Award, CBS Player of the Year, a consensus first team All American selection, Pac 10 Co Player of the Year, which he shared with the Damon Stoudemire, another first team All Pac 10, and a UCLA Co MVP. He would lead this to being drafted 9th overall by the New Jersey Nets in 1995. And for as good as his college career was, he just couldn't make it in the NBA, with his career only lasting 3 seasons before he bounced around from various Europe and ABA teams. So, with his best years coming in college and no way for him to make money off of it, when he found out about his image and likeness being used by EA, yeah, he was very reasonably not happy about it. So, on July 21st, 2009, Ed O'Bannon would file a lawsuit against the NCAA, EA, and the CLC over how these companies have profited from the players, meanwhile, the players were able to get nothing in return. Specifically, Ed claimed that the NCAA had violated the Sherman Antitrust Act and had deprived him and many, many others of their right of publicity. Of course, O'Bannon also wouldn't be the only one in on this case, as he would be joined by Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell, and 17 others that all agree that the archaic system and bylaws that the NCAA used are just not okay. It would take until June 27, 2014 for this case to actually go to trial. Yet by this point, EA has stopped making the college basketball and college football games. But why did they stop sooner than what they probably could have gotten away with? For the March Madness games, it actually makes sense why they stopped earlier than when they did. They just weren't selling nearly as much as college football. March Madness 10 only sold about 370,000 units. So the decline of sales plus the attention drawn onto these games by the lawsuit, EA decided to just cut their losses and focus on making as many more college games as they can. In terms of the college football games, it was more to do with the schools than actually the lawsuit itself. By the time 2014 rolled around, the schools did not want to be involved in a video game if their players weren't going to be involved either. So EA had to pivot and they attempted to make a very generic college football 15 with full customization where you can pretty much just remake the schools. But they decided that they already have one lawsuit to deal with. They don't want a second, so they cut their losses there as well. EA really did not want to be involved in this. And because of that, both them and the CLC filed settlements before the thing went to trial as well. The agreement was that EA and the CLC would pay over 100,000 athletes about $4,000 each. The only kicker was they would have had to have been used in the game since 2003. The other fact of it all, EA wanted to pay the players for all this. It was the NCAA that continuously shut them down. Again, it just continues to showcase the fact that the NCAA is a very archaic in nature organization for college sports. The actual trial would only last about 2 months, as the case would end on August 8, 2014, with the ruling obviously being against the NCAA, and they even tried to appeal, but that was denied by the Supreme Court. The ruling was that the NCAA would have to dish out $42.2 million given to the different plaintiffs. This case was a domino effect that would lead to the NIL system that we know it today, and in large part because Ed O'Bannon wasn't the only person who filed lawsuits. After his case ended, many others started to follow suit, to the point where in March of 2019, they will all be combined into a single lawsuit that we know today as NCAA versus Alston, and that case would end in June of 2021. A ruling of that case, of course, went against the NCAA, but they had a very specific guidelines as to how to handle the NIL system. And simply put, it was that schools were able to offer more simple benefits and non-cash benefits, just as players were able to get private tutoring, advanced class selection, and exclusive college benefits. The NCAA, however, in July of 2021 said if we can't deprive them of everything, we're going to deprive them of nothing, and thus changed their bylaws to allow players to make full money off of their own in a name, image, and likeness. And this came just in time as well. In February of 2021, EA announced that a new college football game was going to be in the works, and that the fact that they were not going to use name, image, and likeness for this, because at the time they still couldn't. Well, this changing of the NCAA guidelines then allowed them to pivot and begin the process of trying to include name, image, and likeness, which they have done very successfully. And so in 2024, 2 days to the day that Ed O'Bannon released that official lawsuit against the NCAA, College Football 25 released to massive, and I mean massive success, well above anything EA even had predicted. But even then, EA still wasn't sure about a college basketball game. According to people that have been with EA the past few months to promote College Football 26, all of them said that they asked while there about college basketball, and EA simply shrugged their shoulders. Despite the fact that College Football 25 sold 2.8 million units at launch and has since become the best-selling sports video game of all time in the United States. You see, the issue with college basketball that college football doesn't have is the amount of schools. And yes, college football does have 136 schools in the FBS level, but that's the thing. There is an FBS and FCS level. College basketball doesn't have that. Every single Division I school competes for the same national championship. So through this, there is about double the amount of schools that EA would need to add for a college basketball game. And to them, it just didn't seem worth it. Or at least it didn't. You see, the CLC over the past few weeks apparently sent out a memo to about 9 different companies saying that if you want anything related to the college basketball rights, let us know, send us a proposal, we'll go from there. EA answered the call, and boy, did they win the proposal. They're going to be making a new college basketball game set to release in 2028. EA's even taking the extra mile with this one, not only including men's college basketball, but also including women's. Now, yes, this is EA going the extra mile, but at the same time, it makes sense why they would. For starters, women's college basketball has grown massively in popularity over the past few years, thanks to the likes of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and a few others. But also, EA was the first company to include the WNBA in the basketball game with NBA Live 19. 2K will follow suit a year later in 2K20. So the target date is 2028, sometime in that year. And finally, a new generation can really understand what made the PS3 era of sports video games so great, with college sports games alive and very much well again. And boy, I know I'm going to enjoy it same way I've enjoyed College Football 25. And I'm definitely going to enjoy College Football 26 when it drops in a few days. I hope all of you enjoy that game as well if you got it. And also hope you enjoyed this video. See you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.